Starting off the album is a pop-punk rager. The song is pretty up in your face with its rebellion tone and loud instrumental. I like some of the electronic segues. I think they add more of an intensity to the track. I will say that the songwriting is a little bare, but the roaring vocal performance thing more than makes up for it and ends up being a pretty enjoyable opener. Continuing the raging motif is ones and zeros. The instrumental flavor is very similar to the opener. It's very loud and up in your face. The song topic is precisely what the title says it is. It is a track about the war between the important people and the less significant people. I will say it doesn't add a whole lot to the conversation of class warfare, but I did like the fiery vocals, and the core melody of the track was pretty enjoyable. It's a solid song. This track is about the fantasy of the whole entertainment industry, dangling this shiny jewelry in your face, only to realize that a bunch of people have their hands in your pockets as well. I love the alt-rock instrumental, and the fluid, clean vocals sound great too. There's something addicting about the vocal delivery on the chorus, and the overall melody just catches my attention. I ended up loving this one quite a lot. Coming off of 3 consecutively loud instrumentals, this one takes more of a soft approach with its singular guitar lead. This singular chord lead is played throughout the verses and has these enriched passages during the chorus that make up a majority of the song. But I'm not really into the vocals of this track, nor am I really into the song topic, or more so how it's presented. It's going over someone going through a tough time and seeking validation, but the songwriting approach is pretty commercial. It sounds like if The Weeknd did an alt-rock song. It's not bad, it's just I wasn't into it. There is a tone of peril on this track that is accentuated pretty well by the production, made up of these pacing guitars and these buggy electronic textures. It sounds great. I really like the progression of the track. I think it ramps up the gravity of the song quite a bit. The song lyrics are going over someone going through a situation who is on the verge of a mental break or literally on a high ledge. And the orchestral outro with the police siren samples before closing off with the singular guitar lead wraps a pretty nice bow around a very eventful track. I can't say I'm really into this because I feel like this track has no bite at all. The production is kind of subpar and the vocal deliveries and melodies are kind of rudimentary. It's just flavorless to me in relation to the rest of the album. Once again, the theme of class warfare is brought back, and it's presented here as a dysfunctional or an abusive relationship. And I wish there was more depth into this concept because it could have worked in the form that it was in. However, it just sounds underdeveloped with the short verses and underwhelming hook. The simplistic approach here just kind of drags the song along for too long with very little substance. This is an aggressively groovy track that I surprisingly like. I like the composition of the track with the gritty chords and the loud atmosphere, and I thought the vocal performance was pretty great as well. The song topic of taking matters into your own hands is more of a theme rather than the song to treat as a subject to analyze and kind of go into. So it did have me wanting more from the lyrics, but I did enjoy it quite a lot. Another solid alternative rock track. I like the core melody of the track. The small pianic passages are a nice touch, and the sonic direction of the track is pretty straightforward. It's pretty consistent. Drug usage is dressed up as a us versus the world relationship, and the vocals sound very passionate in terms of like how aggressive they are. Not too much else I can say about this song. I just thought it was really good. RATKING is probably the most refined track on here. The instrumental performance is tight, and I also grew to love the kinetics of the track. The pop-punk sound is the foundation to the sticky and passionate vocals, especially on the chorus. I think the song is either about peer pressure or the shortcomings of individualism. I wasn't entirely sure what to make of it, but regardless, I think it's great to have a highlight this big, this late into the track listing. The band get very personal on this track and sets the sonic tone with some somber lead pianos with some rock-infused embellishments. The theme of the song is being stuck in a dark place and not having a clue of how to get through it. Henry mentions his mother not being around anymore, and the lyrics sound like he was consoling himself to make sure he doesn't completely fall apart. I have heard this sound many times before, and it kind of began to wear thin on me, but I really like the sentiment of being more confused and panicked as you get older, and Henry really sells it with his performance, and it's some heavy stuff, hombre. Continuing the existentialism of the previous song, Liquid is a track about not knowing what you are, essentially being an existing piece of matter rather than a sentient being. The instrumental here sounds much more open than anything else on the record. It sounds like it takes place on a shoreside with gray skies and a roaring tide, but it shows its hand entirely too early, and while the vocals from Henry and John Florini are sturdy enough, it drags on for so long. It's only a 4-minute track, but it sounds like it goes on for way longer because the hook and the verses are so close together. They're so tight, and they don't give each other enough room to breathe. And the track has little variety because of that, and makes the effect and the gravitas of the song topic much weaker, in my opinion. Closing off the album is Monolith. I really like the rebellious edge this track has. The tumultuous, in-your-face sound is as hellish as ever. The screams have this nice bass line to them, and the transition from the cleaner vocals to the more rugged and throaty ones is decently fluid. It is the most punk song on the album and sounds like an uprising against higher society. I think the outro, where the song bridges into the softer atmospheric piano send-off, was a neat idea, but the composition of this segment is so basic and doesn't do a whole lot to add character to the song, but I thought it was a good closer nonetheless. In kind of a dry spell for pop punk, I think Glue is a very solid album. I did have some grievances about the album being a bit too one-note instrumentally, despite having some songs having these interesting opening instrumental tidbits like electronics and piano, but they never revisit them in any way. Like, a couple of them have these cool sounding textures, but they always seem to be tossed aside for the signature alt-rock or pop-punk sound. Regardless, the highlights of the album are pretty explosive, and there is a sense of identity and refinement to the band that I appreciate. Some of the low points are either painfully average or just kind of flavorless, but I enjoy the record overall. I give it a